Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our spoiler-free review for the Apple original series, Severance Season 2. Let Kier guide your hand. Hello, I'm J-Law, but you can call me Justin, and if you're joining us for the first time, well, we are Geekcentric, a podcast covering the world of movies, TV shows, toys, collectibles, gaming, and all things Geekcentric. Joining me for today's severed, spoiler-free review are two of my buddies who, one's an innie, one's an outie. It's for you to figure out. Nate Shelton, Darcy Hudson, how are you? Yeah, and I am talking about their belly buttons. I'm not talking about their mental states.
Have you seen both our belly buttons? I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you
Hail
travel
Kier.
to enough conventions and stay in enough hotels.
Yeah.
You see things.
You get
Some
close.
things you can't wipe your mind with. But
I think
sometimes I wish I could, would like to be severed so I could forget some of the things that I have seen.
How you all innies. We're all innies, Justin.
We're innies right now, but when we're outies from this podcast, you
don't want anything to do with us. You act like you don't even know us. It's so upsetting. I just want to hang out with everyone, be friends.
How you guys doing?
I'm stoked, dude.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to talk about this season. I didn't get a chance to talk about last season, so
Darcy,
make up for it.
Yeah, we'll get into it. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm just excited.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely we didn't have a chance to talk about last season, but we all fell in love with this show from season 1. Just to get our audience up to speed, if you don't know what this show is about and you haven't seen season 1, in Severance, Mark Scout leads a team at Lumen Industries whose employees have undergone a severance procedure, which surgically divides their memories between their work and personal lives. This daring experiment in work-life balance is called into question as Mark finds himself at the center of an unraveling mystery that will force him to confront the true nature of his work and himself. Now, that is the synopsis for season 1, but let's just pause there for a second. I'd love to get your thoughts about season 1, how you guys felt about it, and what got you really excited for season 2. We may spoil some things for season 1, so if you haven't seen season 1, you can stop here. I also do think that if you haven't seen season 1, there is no value to you to see season 2. So please make sure, you'll be very lost. So hopefully if you've just heard what I've said and you're like, you know what, this show sounds really interesting, stop here, go watch the 10 episodes.
Go get in the elevator.
Yeah.
Okay. Go back down or go back up.
Go from your innie to your outie, from your outie to your innie rather. And, just, relax and sever yourself from society and enjoy the show. But with that said, let's talk about season 1, because I was late to the game, but I know you guys were very much early adopters of this show. Nate, I think you were the one that was probably the first person to kind of talk about it with me, at least, and telling me that I needed to check it out. What was it about the show that just kind of pulled you in?
I think it's, and I'm just off the bat, I'm just going to say Lost, okay? I'm so sorry, everyone. We're going to say it probably 15 times. If you want a fun drinking game that's going to, maybe feel like you've been severed by the end of this, drink every time we say Lost. But no, I mean, it's the mystery box, right? It's the mystery box show. It's a show that, for me, I will never forget, and I still think about almost every day. And this show brought me there, and I was not expecting that. I was not expecting it from Ben Stiller. No offense to Ben Stiller, but I just was like, I don't know.
Underestimate the man's storytelling.
I didn't know how capable he would be at doing this. And
I'm sorry, Ben. If you're listening.
If you're listening, you are. Yeah.
He's not. He doesn't know the things that you've
by the
done.
end of this review, he's going to be like, no, those guys love me. But no, honestly, I just think it was just one of those shows that, like, I was just slowly getting through season 1 and thinking, wow, this is reaching those levels. This has me, writing notes down constantly, looking at all the names on the screens, looking at every single detail, trying to remember the Egan family tree, and just absolutely adoring my time with these characters in this show. And yeah, it had me hooked, bro. It was just, I couldn't stop.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit later, I think. I was after Ted Lasso first or second season. I was looking for something to watch, and scrolling through Apple TV, I saw that the full season for Severance had been released. So I tuned in for that, and I mean, again, like Nate said, I couldn't stop watching. The team, the team they have that does all the macro data refining is just so engaging. Like as soon as you are introduced to them, you want to know more about them and their outies, and just the way that you unravel this story through the first season. It's just whenever I talk to someone, I always just say the fuck gets bigger in every episode because you just want to know what the fuck is going on. Every time you find something out, there is more that's left way out in the open. Like again, back in that first season when they find the goat room, I was like, okay, what are we watching now?
What is
like,
the goat room?
What,
the goat room was
for?
The polar bear. You know what I mean?
Right?
Sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
Lost. It is the best parts of Lost, and I have higher hopes for this than I did for Lost because again, the characters are so like engaging, and you're drawn to them. You want to know so much more about them. And in that first season, I think one of my favorite characters had to be the brother-in-law Rickon. Just his whole, he brought so much levity to these moments and these really psychological, deep, like you're supposed to be thinking about these things, and he just says something, and you're just like, oh, Rickon, you just make me smile, man. Like, he's so good.
I love how he, and obviously we'll talk about characters' performances for this season, but I just really want to quickly chime in with Rickon, just being that character that feels like he says like some really smart things. He's supposed to be like this brilliant mind who wrote this brilliant book, and yet he's maybe the one who knows the least of anyone.
Yeah, he's good at spinning bullshit. Like that's the thing. He's really good at spinning it. And I think that's very, if you think about Lumen, that's very much aligned with what they do, right? So there's a parallel there to be explored.
How about for yourself, Justin?
Yeah, like for me, I definitely I agree with you guys. Like first, I came into Severance very late. Like I only finished it probably just before, like in the holidays.
Oh wow, this
past holiday season in preparation for season 2, because I definitely wanted to talk about it. Both you and, you know, if it's got Nate's approval, I'm like, yeah, that's great. But it got Darcy's approval. I'm like, okay, this has got to be something worth checking out.
And it doesn't have dragons or anything in it. Exactly. So like,
no, but you know, when two of you geeks are telling you, you got to check this out, it's something that I was definitely going to check out. So yeah, I came into it late. I did start earlier in 2024, but the show, for me at least, the show took its time to kind of establish things, and I think up front it spends more time, you know, establishing the unique world, and sort of the ins and outs of Lumen, and yeah, there's a mystery there, but the mystery like doesn't really start to hit until probably episode 4 and 5, and that's halfway through that first season. And you know, I think it's just a fascinating example, and you said it best, Nate. It's a fascinating example of a mystery box show, and I think it's one of the best to date, like you said, Darcy, since Lost, and I think it's going to be better than Lost, hopefully. I think it has probably more intention to know where it wants to end, unlike Lost, which I think is probably what's going to help this show. But I think what sets Severance apart, and just even after watching season 1 and parts of season 2, is the ability to seamlessly weave like a dark comedy into this very sci-fi surreal story. Like the absurdity of Lumen's workplace, like the bizarre rituals, the unsettling rewards, the eerie cheerfulness of some of its employees. It provides moments of humor that are both unnerving but strangely relatable. It's like, why is this person so?
Have you worked in a corporate environment before? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's 100%.
And I've been on both sides, Justin. Sure. You and I both have where we've worked in the past, where we've had to, you know, we get the message from corporate, we have to deliver it this very specific way, and yet we've also been on the other side of it where we're like, oh no, we can see right through that, and it's so relatable.
And I think that this dark comedic edge really serves as a brilliant counterbalance to the show's tension, making the world feel even more surreal and the stakes even higher, given the contrast between the innies and the outies. Overall, it's a masterclass of tension, imagination, tonal balance, and it's like you said, Darcy, leaving viewers constantly questioning everything, or as you said, having the fucks be bigger. Like, what the fuck? Like, it's just nuts how deep it goes into it. And the way this season one ends was quite compelling. The fact that they were able to break that barrier and put uh their innies on the outies on the
Yeah.
outside to experience, their outies world. It was that whole finale episode was incredible. The revelations that came from that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just again, you're before when you're going back to how you were talking about the aesthetic and the vibe and
Mhm.
the eeriness, it's almost like that dark comedy gives me like Wes Anderson vibes,
Yeah.
where it's very peculiar in the way the aesthetic and it's presented to you, but just again, the tonal stuff behind it is so much darker. Again, it's a great juxtaposition, and I love it. And they get that again, the season finale of last year was, or the last season was, again, it's what made you want to come back, and it made these 3 years seem so
100%.
long, waiting
Mhm.
for this season to the show to return, because like it's just again what you find out at the end and what happens and how they go about doing it, the way they lead up to it, the storytelling, they leave every like Nate was saying, they leave so much like little clues out there for you to find out stuff. And the fact that we saw earlier that Severance wasn't just for this floor, other people
Mhm.
were doing it. How does that work? And then we see eventually that it's not just confined to the office. Just again, the way that they unravel these layers while still just setting up an even greater mystery. It has me hooked so much, and you want to keep watching.
And I will say that dark comedy tone that's integrated into this, and I'm not just saying this because his background is comedy, but that's what makes Ben Stiller a perfect sort of like the perfect filmmaker to kind of step in here to understand sort of the obscurity and the sort of bizarre humor around certain things, and he's able to work with it. And all of the directors are like, obviously it's a team effort. There's a lot of other directors that are featured in this, but his close proximity to it, and I think him as a bit of a showrunner, along with the creator of the show, who I think is actually the showrunner though too, is Dan Erickson. I think the two of them have created this sort of Bible for Lumen, for this world that serves to kind of, again, mix that eeriness with that comedy that creates such a unique tone to this show. And I think that to me is what stood out from season one, apart from everything else, is just how unique the vibe is.
For sure. Again, it's just it's so different that you want, and so quaint and charming in a way that's so unsettling. I mean, before we go on to this season, I think we'll probably talk about for this season too. Is just my favorite part from that first one is that theme that they just weave throughout the whole show, and,
Hmm.
and use it to build such tension at
Hmm.
times. And just I was talking about it to you guys recently, but how Inside Out's theme kind of really invokes creativity and just the childish sense of imagination, whereas Severance does the exact same thing for that eerie, unsettling feeling and like kind of that uncanny valley almost vibe going for it. It's so creepy, and it's just a little earworm. It gets in your head and it pops up in all the weirdest ways. Like everything about the show is just a masterpiece of mystery and suspense.
Well, here we are with season two. As I mentioned, the ending of season one left us on a cliffhanger. Our MDR team were successful in getting their innies out into the real world to experience it, and it had some damning ramifications, which is what season two really picks up with. In season two, Mark and his friends learn the dire consequences of trifling with the severance barrier, leading them further down a path of woe. That is it for season two
Yeah.
synopsis.
Fitting.
This show stars Adam Scott, Patricia Arquette, Britt Lauer, John Turturro, Zach Cherry, Tremel Tillman, Deachin Lockman, Jen Tulloch, Michael Chernus, Christopher Walken, Sarah Bach, and Oliver Dari Olafson. The first episode premieres on January 17th, so today, followed by new episodes every Friday till March 21st. So that's several weeks, 10 weeks to be exact, of Severance
Ooh.
episodes. A huge thanks to our friends at Apple for giving us early access. We are a little bit late getting this review out. Embargo has already lifted, but we're going to share our thoughts, spoiler free, of course. We were fortunate enough to be gifted the first 6 episodes, so we've seen more than half of the season. As usual, we're not going to give a final review on the seasons, but we are going to talk about what worked and what didn't work for us through these 6 episodes. And at the end we'll probably come up with a consensus of how we kind of feel about this these 6 episodes with the remaining 4 that we haven't yet seen. But let's kick it off. Let's talk about the look and feel of season 2. In a lot of ways, for me at least, season 2 of Severance is continuing its stunning visual storytelling.
Hmm.
It's building on that sterile, minimalist design of the Lumen offices while offering a striking contrast with the outside world. And I think we get to see more of that. I think the Audi world is rich with detail, highlighting a warmer and more chaotic reality that feels starkly different from the controlled clinical atmosphere of the Severance floor. And I think this juxtaposition visually not only emphasizes the divide between the two spheres of the innies and outies, but also disorients us as viewers, mirroring the experience that our characters are navigating through both of these realities. So I think that we're diving a little bit deeper into kind of seeing both sides of these characters in different situations within their innie and outie worlds. That, it's only to create a sort of jarring effect as on us as a viewer as we watch it.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the coolest things about look and feel from that first season they carried over to this season as well was the fact that because we are following a workplace show, basically, the fact that the innies are in such a bright white environment, and then we go to the outies and it's always nighttime whenever we're following their storylines outside. So it really, again, drives home the fact that these are two separate storylines that are happening with the same bodies, and again, it's such an interesting way to show that divide between the inside and outside. And again, just the way we get more of the world in this season, still being masked by the shroud of darkness and night, gives it that eerie feeling that just, while it might not be a creepy scene, it feels creepy just because it's happening at night in this weird dimly lit hallway or whatever. It's a really cool storytelling choice, and I love it.
And even that meta effect that you were talking about, Justin, like I absolutely adore it, and I'm happy we're getting more time in and around Kier, which is, yes, the founder of Lumen, but also the area that they all live in and where Lumen is positioned, and getting to spend more time with the Audis and being in that environment. Yeah, dude, like it's so creepy how the show is in a way trying to make us feel like we want to be in Lumen more. We want to be in those brighter environments, but I do love seeing the that juxtaposition you're talking about, how messy things are. Mark's house is out of order, right? His sister's house with her and Rickon and whatever is kind of, like you said, warm to a certain degree. We don't have that stark coldness, and I think the hallways outside of MDR are so disorienting. I want to shout out cinematographer Jessica Lee Gagne, who gives us this incredible one take of Mark S running through the halls this season. The angles and the sort of quick, smooth, almost unnatural movements of the camera as Mark is running through the hallways, going around each corner. It adds to that confusion that Mark's feeling in those moments, and it just elevates this show so much.
Yeah, I felt like that oneer of him running, it felt very reminiscent of the visual aesthetic of the openings.
Hmm.
But also, to your point, there was such a level of urgency that he had, obviously coming out of the events from last season and really picking up where he left off from there as he's descending into the Severance floor. But yeah, I think that was so, it was so purposeful to do it that way, and to kind of really highlight that what sort of a bit of a theme of this show, which is that disorienting nature.
Yeah, and again, it also just mirrors that first episode in the season when we first see Mark enter the Severance Floor with that one take of him just walking through that
Correct.
same disorienting hallway. And that season, and now I'm even more wondering how many takes did they have to do? Because I can easily see myself walking backwards into a wall, missing a turn or something like that, going at those speeds. It's just, someone ran into a wall somewhere. You got to think.
For sure.
Also just kind of going off of look and feel, the technology, this was obviously very prevalent in the first season, and we see it continued here, but that sort of vintage modern technology,
Hmm.
it's so interesting because in a lot of ways for myself, I was wondering, when does this show take place? Like, what is the timeline? Is this a sort of weird past future thing where it's like maybe the 70s or 80s, but these are things that are happening. But no, we actually do see some smartphones used. So it is interesting to see that the sort of vintage modern technology that Lumen uses is more of a sort of archaic and very, very, I guess, for lack of better words, old school style, but still has these really interesting protocols to them, and things that do feel very future. I don't know. It's strange, and it was cool to see it. It was cool to see it sort of develop, and we get some little more instances that feel a little otherworldly to it. But it's for the most part, it does carry a very vintage aesthetic.
For sure. I think there's an article out there that I think it's on Panavision.com that they put out where they interviewed Jessica Lee Gagne, and she uses C series lenses to add that 70s aesthetic for both season 1 and season 2. And I really love that. And I think it only adds to the yes, that sort of office style that you'd expect from the show, but also the storytelling and the reverence for what we see as a boring office and boring computers. But these are things that almost to a religious degree
Yes,
for
that's
Lumen
exactly it. Yeah.
are so important, right? These things are the
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 Bible.
the the Bible. They're the way things were,
Were,
and
yeah.
they're the way things
Are.
are.
Yeah.
And I think that is so fun to explore, especially as we have these characters that are trying to maybe upheave some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You mentioned it though, Darcy, the music, it's so
Bro,
signature. That little da-na-na, da-na-na, like that intro theme, like it's just like what it is it almost kind of mirrors the sort of retro vibe, but it also has these levels of like bizarre mystery and oddness to it that feel so inherent to what the tonal vibes of the show, right? Like
Mhm.
like a big use in even in just in the opening is that sort of static, in focus, out of focus sound that you hear
the
that we
sort of
get.
like the
Yeah, the
yeah,
static,
yeah.
yeah, and that is so uh that's so prevalent, and kind of understanding the way that the severance experience is for these employees. So again, just the way it's able to mix some retro classic vibes that feel very Mad Men, like old school 60s, 70s, sort of contemporary jazz, if you will, to a certain degree.
Hmm.
Very piano. I love that for it, because it adds to the obscurity of the tone of this show.
Yeah, again, it's just the simplicity in it and the fact that it no matter when you hear it, you just that it invokes a feeling in you. It's just that's a great theme in my opinion. If it's driving home this sense of unease when it needs to, it's doing its job. And the fact that it is such a simple retro sounding, like you said, that just everything about it was crafted to make you feel a certain way, and it's just done so well and used so well throughout the show.
And it's
Mhm.
it's a theme song that is so memorable as well, which is it's not something we get too often in the TV space. A lot of shows have sort of abandoned the idea of a theme song, and
Mhm.
I've really been enjoying it. But I think Theodore Shapiro is you're right, Justin. He's taking a less is more approach, right? The sort of the instead of a big giant orchestra at times, a few keys on a
Quiet, simple.
piano
Yeah.
can be scarier than an entire orchestra. And I think with the strings and like you mentioned, the jazz elements, we're talking about a show that is just full of juxtaposition, right? And the fact that we've got this jazz that has these random elements
Yeah,
as
that's
Mark is running
jazz. Yeah,
through
that's the
these,
show. Yeah.
right? But Mark is running through these static,
Right.
predictable visuals in these hallways,
Mm.
and it just adds to that eeriness. It adds to that scariness, and it's so cool how they managed to do that. And I think Theodore Shapiro is killing it. I bought the vinyl for the first season. I'm gonna buy the vinyl for this one as well, and I'm absolutely adoring it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's so much to adore. The cast is definitely a huge part of what makes this show super special. So let's talk about performances. I think we should start by talking about Mark. Adam Scott. I think Adam Scott shines as Mark. He dives deeper into this detective mode following the revelations of season one, and we see the lengths he's willing to go to uncover the truth about Lumen. And his desperation and determination makes for some of the season's most compelling moments, in my opinion. I think his performance is balanced with emotion, and sort of this again humor. Like, it's funny how he can still have a smile on his face and be funny when with all of this going on, but you can see Mark's growing sense of rebellion. He is being influenced. He's wanting to know more. I think now that he's penetrated the other side and has seen, gotten his innie out, he's even more motivated now to do what he can to unravel the mysteries. And obviously, with the revelation of, and this is a spoiler, that his wife is still alive, that is a huge motivation for him to try to get the answers that he's looking for. And I think he's doing a great job in these first 6 episodes. He's absolutely compelling. He's bringing it all.
Yeah, it's something that I loved about the first season was the fact that he managed to make this again the divide between the two, the innie and outie was so like prevalent. You were able to tell a shift in emotion, a shift in body language when you switch between the two, and then seeing it furthered in this one as again they're both starting to deal with the ramifications of that final episode is incredible. He's taking it to new lengths where again it feels like two different performances, but you're starting to see the parallels in how this person thinks, despite being severed. They have this. They almost go about things the same way, and we're starting to unpack that a bit more in the season. And it's just done so well. Adam Scott is doing a fantastic job at bringing Mark to life.
And I'm so used to Adam Scott being more of a douchey character. He usually, in my mind, I find he plays more like jerks, if you will.
Yeah.
But I
Except
was
for Ben.
I was so
Ben's lovable.
true. Ben
Parks
is
and Rec.
lovable. Sure, yeah. But just this idea of like he just delivered such a fantastic plastic corporate shill persona in season one, and we get to see that break down in season one. And then you're like you said, Justin, this season we get to see him. He's still lost and confused at times, but he's done this before. Right. He got his outie legs, if you will. And I think he's working in a world that has seemingly been somewhat reset. But he hasn't. Right.
Yeah.
And then Mark Scout, his outie, we get to see him diving a little bit deeper after the events of the last season. And he just is, Adam Scott does such a good job of creating this character that you want to root for so much. And it's such a fantastic transformation from the character he was at in the first few seconds of season one.
I think to your point, exactly. He came off as a sort of, he drank the Kool-Aid that was Lumen. He was actually integrating Helly, right? And like getting her up to speed on the processes and stuff. So he was the prime example of what it meant to be a Lumen employee and a severed Lumen employee. So I think, yes, he's fallen far from that, and he is now in full detective mode. I have two others. I'm sure you guys are going to bring up some other ones. Why don't we go to Nate? I know you have your hand.
Oh, I just wanted to. You mentioned Helly. I wanted to talk about Britt Lauer. Or Lauer. I think. I think Helly and Helena, right? Her outie that we got to know very little of in Helena Egan in season one. I think she's, as far as Helly is concerned, she's so good at giving us the rebel that is Helly R. There are moments this season where you almost want to like sort of giggle alongside her, like you're that like teenager, bad teenager in class going up against the teacher or whatever. But then to get to see her as this other character of Helena, and kind of getting that moment we saw in season one of the video that she sent to Helly R was so scary. And in this season, we get to see her as more of a powerful presence on screen. And I think it's really exciting that we get to see her and the some more of the higher up at Lumen. It's really intriguing. And she's one of those characters that you can't really look away from when she is Helena. And I just think she's just doing such a fantastic job. And I think this whole cast is doing such an excellent job of getting to play two characters, not just the outies and the innies. I love that, but also
Two
these
different
these
sides of those
these
characters.
right, but also the two different sides of this company, right? Getting to sort of see more of some of the way that these people within Lumen, who aren't necessarily severed,
Well, yeah,
are acting both in front of
but
and away from their higher ups.
but that's what's so interesting about Heliar and Helena Egan. It's like they are drastically different people,
Mhm.
and this season really does highlight that again because we get to see more of the Audi world, and we get to see what they're really like. And I think that is such a like as you said, like for these actors, it must be so great for them to be able to kind of delve into these characters and kind of create two personas, right? One that exists within this corporate sterile environment, and one that lives on the outside of that, and what the differences are. And I think to your point, she's really kind of delving into having that Audi character be much different from Heliar.
Yeah, I mean, she's doing a great job, and I love Heliar's story and everything like that. But again, the core of the story is about MDR, and one of my favorite MDR members is Zach Cherry's Dylan. He in the first season was so cocky and confident, and he just again you were cracking a smile at everything he was saying because he was full of such confidence and bravado. And we see that again this season, but we're also again getting to see his Audi and kind of how he's viewed and how he deals with his family that we learned Dylan had last year, and just this again the two sides that we're seeing from this the actor is incredible. They're the fact that they're able to bring such depths and draw such lines between the innie and Audi that they feel like different characters despite being the same person is just it's incredible. I love it. I love what they're doing with the show.
I think we recently, Darcy, had a conversation about comedians, and we had seen a performance by a comedian that just absolutely rocked our socks that we weren't necessarily expecting. And I think it's just so incredible how talented comedians are and able to play both those sides. And in the world that you're talking about, Justin, the world that has been created here, it works so well. And I loved getting more of Dylan G in this season, both as innie and as outie. But I like how you had mentioned, Darcy, that the fucks keep getting bigger. And I think my
Yeah.
favorite thing about Dylan G is that he is the one dropping the fucks, right? He is
Oh
the
yeah.
one dropping what the literal fuck is going on.
Yeah,
And I love that about him because I think there's so many times in this show is more mystery box than it is horror, but there are definitely horror elements and
there's scary elements.
there are
Yeah,
scary moments. And normally, and in a lot of shows and movies that involve those elements, characters are making decisions where we're going like, that's dumb. You wouldn't do that. But Dylan G seems to make all the decisions and says all the things that we want to say as we're watching the show. And that's what's so relatable about his character.
Although he also does say what the fuck to some of the weirdest things ever, like a hole punch or something like that. Was it the first season?
Yeah,
Just the freaking out about the thing on the desk. Oh yeah, it's again his reaction is so much like it brings that humor to this show
so
that
good.
you wouldn't expect you to be laughing at. I love it.
He's a long way from do a flip, Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
yeah, and he also like he's delivering, man. Like I think the way you said it, like he is the audience. The audience is him, and I think in a lot of ways, the way he comes in with his what the fucks or his just his lines, it's it makes for some of the most relatable and connective uh characters of the show. And this is we're talking about a show that exists within a world where you can sever your mind from your work and your life. Like it's wild. He is one of my favorites. Another one of my favorites, though, is Irving, John Turturro. I think John Turturro's Irving becomes even more invested in unearthing this truth. His meticulous and heartfelt approach to investigating Lumen's adds depth to his character, but it builds tension in unexpected ways that really do manifest itself in a really great moment. And I think Turturro brings an authenticity to Irving's arc that feels making it the pursuit feel both personal and urgent, if that makes sense. Like his performance feels so like John Turturro is someone who probably plays in the realm of comedy, but he's done some really great dramatic roles, even with the Coen brothers in the past, and he's always been seen as sort of being able to dabble in both. And I think again that's why he's perfect for this. I think some of the comedy moments that he brings are more smaller that still make you chuckle, while it's really his drive, his urge, his heart that really makes Irving so endearing.
Well, he's also the one that's worked at Lumen. He's the most seasoned Lumen employee, and I think for him it's interesting because he's dealing with something this season, and we again, spoilers for season one, but he's dealing with something that I don't think he's ever had to deal with before, right? Which is loss, and I think that is the driving factor for this shift for his character. He was the most dedicated to Kier and to Lumen in season one, and he went through this change. He with Bert, and I think that is something that has just elevated his character so quickly. And I love that because I think the concept of a right, because the innies are beings, right? They're not necessarily babies, then kids, then whatever. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
memories that far back.
Mm-hmm.
So the concept of a being finding something as important and intriguing to human life as love
Mm-hmm.
and then losing it, we
Yes.
really get to see how that affects him this season, and
Well,
he's doing such a good job.
and I think parallel to that is obviously Mark S's story as well, and his Audi story of with his wife. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Like it is a sense of loss, but it's clear that Irving's Audi is doing something, is tracking Lumen. I don't know what that really means, but from the end of season one, it was clear that he had all the information. Like he knew where Bert was, right? And then I think the idea that he was able to discover it, and then he was obviously switched back. That created such a jarring experience, right? And what's great is we do get to see some of those moments of like what happened right after that
Yeah.
moment, and that really does give us like it gave me at least a satisfying um sense of well, what would have happened when they flipped that switch
Mhm.
like that. So yeah, he's outstanding in this show. Is there anyone else you guys wanted to talk about? I have one other person that I wanted to mention.
I gotta mention, I mean, the new man in charge of the severed floor,
Hmm.
Mr. Milchek's Tremel Tillman.
Yep.
I think I got that right.
Yeah.
Yes, you
He's
did.
doing a fantastic job. Again, bringing that like the smile and charm to this very overwhelming presence and overbearing. Like they're afraid of him, but he said does everything with a smile on his face, and he's just upped his game from that first season. Now that he's kind of stepped into the manager role, it's just he's upping everything's firing on all levels. There is a certain scene that just thinking back to it, I get chills from this, the dedication he has to Lumen is shown in this scene, and he just again, it's haunting his performance at times.
And I think you mentioned that smile, Darcy, and that smile is that again, that fake corporate
Oh yeah.
plastic persona of everything is fine. Everything is going to be okay. Even though you're in terrible trouble right now, everything is fine. Everything's going to be okay, and it has to be okay. And so getting to see those moments, but then you're right, Darcy, we get to spend more time with him. He's been promoted. What happens when you get promoted? There's a lot more challenges that come your way in this new role that you have, in this new role that he has, and to see him struggling to maintain that smile, you have to know that he is so good in season one at maintaining that smile in the most terrible of situations. The fact that he's struggling to maintain that smile, that means that like shit is going
Oh
down,
yeah.
and it is horrible. And it's so impressive to see Trammell deliver this character that is just struggling so hard to maintain what he's lived his entire life.
I agree. I think Tremel he delivers probably one of the most standout performances in these 6 episodes. And you're absolutely right. Like he's typically composed, and he has this menacing demeanor that you start to see fracture under the mounting pressure of his new role at Lumen. And I think watching Milchick begin to crack adds layers of unpredictability, as it's unclear how far he will go in terms of maintaining his control, or what happens if he loses it. And yeah, Darcy, if I'm thinking of the same one episode, I think that's the same one. That moment is just it's almost it's an odd form of torture, is what I'd
Mhm.
say. And to feel that, having seen what the break room is, it's compelling, and it's something that is a way to almost self-inflicted a process of learning. And I think that's sort of like menacing and uneasy about it. I think it's crazy to see what he was able to go through in those moments. But yeah, this is his performance was knockout.
And then I just want to quickly shout out Sydney Cole Alexander for the same thing, as well as Sarah Bach. Sarah Bach plays Miss Wong, who you will learn more about. I don't even really want to say anything about her character because I don't know how much they've really talked about or shown in trailers. But just in the same way that Miss Cobell would treat Milchek, Milchek now has someone there for him to treat in that way. And then Sydney Cole Alexander, who plays Natalie, we get a little bit more of her. She's the one that's sort of the go between the board and whoever's running the severed floor, in this case Milchek. And as a huge fan, and I think we all are big fans of the Apple product reveal events, like, bro, she is nailing that fake corporate smile. Again, that everything is going to be okay. That way of speaking, she's got it on lock. And I believe everything she's saying, but then there, like Milchek in some moments, there's this scary, almost like there's a gun to her head look
For sure.
in her eyes.
For sure.
And she does that so well. The way that she can communicate without saying anything is incredible. And it's just the talent in this cast is just nuts.
Yeah, and again, it builds upon that fact that there's something at Lumen is compelling enough to have both the severed employees working without wanting to know what's going on, and these people who aren't severed dedicate their lives to such extents to work for Lumen. It's incredible to see two performances convey just how haunting this or looming this corporation
How
is. Really.
lumen it. Yeah.
Bad.
Yeah.
So you're like, I want to sever my memory right now from that.
Yeah,
moment.
yeah, just that one. That's all I need to forget.
Also, just as a last shout out, Michael Chernus as Rick and Hale. So great to see him come back.
Yes.
We were talking about him at the top here. His words found a way to enlighten the MDR team and kind of motivate them to do this. And again, he's able to spin bullshit pretty well, and so can Lumen, and I think that presents itself as being a very interesting parallel between those two that we get to see kind of unravel in its own way. But yeah, he's definitely a very unique character, and he adds a level of levity and hilarity to certain more moments.
And I'm not going to spoil a single thing, but I will say I'm very, very interested to see where his character is going this season and where he ends up, because it's going to be interesting.
Yep. Well, let's talk about the story
without talking about the story.
I have some things that I wrote that maybe are just some good basis of jumping off points, but I think some things we can confirm is season 2 does pick up after the events of season 1, and almost immediately, and it maintains that tension and that urgency. Best example would be that oneer that you mentioned, Nate, from I believe it's the first episode, that really does give you a sense of urgency and wanting to find answers like right off the bat, given what had happened at the end of season 1. And the finale, but it's opening the door to new layers of the mystery. And I think this time we delve deeper into the outie world, as I was mentioning before, which not only expands the scope of the story, but serves to definitely be a contrast and disorient us in ways similar to that, as I mentioned, that it does to the characters and their experiences. And I think the broader perspective, it's revealing how deeply intertwined Lumen is with the outside world, which is just raising more questions than answers. Like, I think that we're just getting further inside that mystery box, man. And I think that
keeps growing. That's what I'm saying, man.
And I think that the intricacies of the mystery remain largely unraveled. The first 6 episodes lay such a promising amount of groundwork that I feel like this is going to be a really great season. Like, I think this narrative, it's keeping me on the edge of my seat. It's balancing new revelations with plenty of intrigue, and it's leaving me excited to see where we will end up in the finale in episode 10 of this season. So kudos to the writing for these first 6 episodes. It's 100% lost, but I think it's so much more like committed to what it wants to say. Like I'm not to knock Lost, but like I think by the end of it felt like, did they really know what they wanted to do, or were they just putting a whole bunch of things out there and really just trying to capitalize on mystery, mystery, mystery? I feel like I'm hoping, I'm praying, let's say, that this has more of a concise sort of vision of where it ended. Basically, I hope they came up with the ending before they came up with this show. Essentially, is how I feel that a good show like this with enough mystery needs to be approached.
This
Mhm.
Lost slander will not stand. You'll be hearing from my lawyers. I was going to save this to the end because I don't want to open up a can of worms. I still don't, but I will just quickly say, to that point of Lost, I think this show will be more consistent simply due to when it's being made. I think Lost was made in a very specific time of
It was made in
TV.
TV
It
era.
was
Yeah,
made in
absolutely.
TV
This
era.
is
We're in
streaming
streaming.
era.
We're in the streaming world.
10
Okay.
episodes. It's not
Yes.
24. They don't need to add more
It's
filler.
different.
They can choose their own adventure,
So
if
I
you
think the
will.
battle is maybe a little uneven there if we
Sure.
were to put them up against each other. But I will say I love the fact that we're getting an element similar to flashbacks, right? We're getting that element within the story, and even more so this season of getting to experience the same character from two. Sorry, the Lost had experiencing the same character from two different moments in time that help inform the character we're seeing in the current time. But here we're getting to see the same moment in time from the perspective of two personalities inside the same body. And I think it's honestly so riveting. And I never found myself, within these 6 episodes, I never found myself upset that we were spending a certain amount of time on either side. I was never hoping for more time either inside or
Mhm.
outside of Lumen. The
Mhm.
mystery remains the same and
Yeah.
keeps growing. The fuck keeps growing. This we'll get on a t-shirt, Darcy. But speaking of that mystery, I really appreciate with these 6 episodes we've watched, as much as you can feel, and I think I felt this in the first season as well, there is a slight sense of, because we're seasoned mystery box show watchers at this point, you can feel the pace is a little slow to kind of add to that buildup. But I think the way that this show manages to give us small answers to smaller setups at just the right time is really, really impressive. I found myself multiple times in these 6 episodes thinking back to episode 2 and episode 5, and I don't know any, I can't remember if this is exactly what it was, but it was something similar to that, where I was like thinking in episode 5 at the beginning, I'm like, oh, I wonder if this is going to pay off. And then it does by the end of that
Mhm.
episode, right? And so
Mhm.
I think they're doing such a good job with pacing out those smaller mysteries that even though you do feel a bit of the pace of characters walking down a hallway and talking and building that slowly, it's still worth it at the end of the day because you're getting all these little micro rewards.
And I think that pacing is totally intentional, because like
Mhm.
when they spend so long on those silent moments or walking or just those twists and turns in that hallway, just it's adding to that layer of eeriness and making it the cringe almost factor that you're like, oh, we're spending a bit too long. I'm supposed to be uneasy, and that's the kind of the whole vibe of the show is you're not supposed to trust anything you see because what we don't know what is going on behind closed doors at Lumen, what the ultimate goal of Kier Egan and his legacy is for the world and stuff. So like just the fact that the story is doing such a good job of sprinkling in, like you said, Nate, those small little things at the right time while also giving these really in-depth character analysis moments between the MDR and the world around them and stuff like that is just it's such an enjoyable show to watch because you're never disappointed, like you said, Nate. You're always like, I'm glad we just experienced that.
Yeah.
And while it might be disorienting at times, again, just adds to the layer of this unease and confusion that, of course, these innie and outies would be experiencing at some point. Just the day ending where it starts over and over again.
Mhm.
I don't know how any innie would stay sane after doing that more than a week or two at a time. They never sleep. They're just always working. That just drives me wild. Like the fact that, yeah, oh, this show so good. Sorry.
And we're going long on this, and I'm okay with it, honestly, just because it's
I'm
so
not.
exciting. It's fine. You have to edit it, deal with it. Okay, get your innie to do it. But I think for me, I think that I love getting to talk about this show. That's my favorite. That was my favorite thing about Lost, right? The water cooler moments after watching an episode,
The
and I
theorizing.
I think I go into my notes on this, and yes, we're writing spoiler-free notes, but I'm also writing a ton of details. I'm devouring every moment, right? And I'm downloading every song used for the after credits to learn as much as I can, because there's some hidden meanings in there. And if you downloaded Petula Clark as a Lostie, you'll know what I'm talking about after you met Desmond. But I think it's just one of those things where I ran to Darcy after a specific episode saying, "Did you see the logo in this episode, in this part of the snow or whatever?" And it's one of those things that, again, it's so much fun to be in speculation mode again in this show, and I cannot believe we've gotten 6 episodes in, and I'm still just as fervent to continue. What, I don't know if I use that word, but I'm
you
don't
gotta
worry
stop
about it.
using big words, man.
I got it.
Stop using
I
big words.
but I'm just as
You're too much of a milkshake.
excited to, yes, I'm just as excited though to keep watching the show. And I kept catching myself in each episode doing what I would do when I would watch Lost, which is checking to see how much time was remaining and being like, "Oh no, I don't want it to end." You know what I mean? Like I wasn't checking because
You
I
can
was
sense
bored.
the cliffhanger coming.
Yes, and I'm like,
no,
we're
no,
getting
no,
there. No,
no.
please, no. I don't want to go, back in the elevator. So yeah, I am so happy with the 6 episodes that we've gotten, and it's just, oh,
Yeah,
love it.
it's great. It's perfect, and I think that it's good to be back in the Severance world again. For you guys, it's been 3 years. For me, it was a couple months or not even.
Lucky.
I that's part of the reason why I wanted to kind of wait and as we got closer to kind of really give it a second go and just sit down and watch it all. But you were talking about the pacing, and I feel like in a lot of ways, like Darcy was saying, that's purposeful. I feel like even after last season, like I said, I didn't really start diving into this mystery until after the first 5 episodes. I think that it's so heavy on the front of kind of setting the groundwork, which is what I think these first 6 episodes really do. And as we get towards, like, I guess 5 and 6, it starts to kind of dive a little bit deeper. Things are really starting to open up. And I think that that's the structure that it's kind of following. It's not meant to give you like big reveals or big answers throughout each of the episodes. It's meant to kind of serve and give you small micro rewards leading to making those bigger moments that might happen in like a 5 or a 6. And I'm not saying that they are, but if something happens, like, it just makes it that much more gratifying in a lot of ways. And I think that is the proper pacing for a mystery box show. It's not about necessarily just draw them out until the end of the season and give them something. You got to give them some stuff throughout that makes them feel rewarded, makes them feel valued, makes viewers feel valued, and
like a corporation would with micro rewards, like pizza day at work, right? Like it's like that's what it feels like, right?
It's a whole headspace game. And I think again, it's there's part of me that obviously feels like there's just us doing what we do as geeks, looking really deep into these things and being like, whoa, whoa, you know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, it feels like it's purposeful, feels like it's meant to be that way. But yeah, like you said, Nate, these 6 episodes are great. I think from listening to us, you get the consensus. We're loving the show. You're gonna love it too.
Are we going to mention a favorite episode, or?
Yes, Nate, we are going to share our favorite episodes from this. And you know what? Seeing as how you're so eager off the gun, why don't we let you go first there? What's the episode that you're eager for audiences to watch?
I think episode 4 is really special. I remember it caught me off guard, and I remember messaging Darcy immediately and being like, "Darcy, I'm going into episode 4. Did I skip an episode? Did I skip something? Did I miss?" Because sometimes with these screeners, we get them in like different orders somehow. And Apple's usually really good with not having that happen. But here I was like, "Did I skip?" And he's like, "Don't worry. Trust in Kier. It's going to be okay." But I love that getting into that episode I felt just as confused as the characters that we're following. And that is all I want to say. Honestly, I think episode 4 is going to break the internet, and it's extremely different and wild, and I'll shut up about it, but I loved it, and I can't wait to see the reactions online.
Episode 4 is one that I would definitely mention as well, but another one I would say would probably be the last one you got with episode 6. It has me so eager to return to this show. Whenever the 7th episode was released, I'll be watching weekly just to keep myself updated and refresh on what's going on, and maybe again find some of those new clues. But episode 6 and has that Milchek moment that just will stay with me for a while, I think.
It's haunting.
So
It's haunting.
It's haunting, and
No.
it's such a great performance.
It's
So,
haunting yet
it's-
mundane. I think that's the most that you could really say about that situation.
Yes.
And
yes.
and it's just, again, like, it was torturous. Yeah, I'm with you. I think episode 4 and 6 are probably the ones I'm going with, 2, because you guys each, I'm gonna go with 2 and just say 4 and 6. I think 4 and 6 are definitely pinnacle episodes of the season thus far. They really pack a punch. They deliver some great, outstanding performances. And yeah, episode 4 is very jarring, and episode 6 is just unsettling. So enjoy. You have some time before, but yes, episode 1 is out today, is out now on Apple TV Plus. So go check it out. All episodes are going to be running weekly every Friday up until March 21st. That is it for our Severance season 2 spoiler-free review. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, feel free to let us know by reaching out to us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. You can also reach out to us on our socials at GeekcentricYT on Twitter and on Instagram at wearegeekcentric. Keep in mind, we have a ton of great episodes, including a bunch of spoiler-free reviews from a bunch of stuff from 2024, including Marvel Animation's What If Season 3, Disney's Mufasa, Kraven the Hunter. If you're still interested in getting a spoiler-free review for that, no one is.
Don't look back.
But we've already started with episodes for 2025. We have our annual Geek Back episode, the best and worst of 2024. We get into sharing our favorites and best from 2024, including movies, TV shows, video games, animated projects, as well as our biggest disappointments and what we're looking forward to in 2025. In terms of interviews, yeah, we've got our first interview out for 2025 with the cast of Goosebumps: The Vanishing. That's available both on podcast feeds and on YouTube at youtube.com/geekcentric. We also have our interview with Brian Andrews, showrunner of What If Season 3 and executive producer Brad Winderbaum. That's also available on youtube.com/geekcentric. We got more interviews on the way. We got more reviews as well. Stay tuned for a spoiler-free review for another Apple TV original show, Mythic Quest Season 4, as well as maybe some fun interviews for that show as well. But there's so much more. 2025 is just starting. We're excited to get into it, and we're excited for Severance. I think that's the consensus here. So
Really?
yes. Nate, Darcy, thank you for being the innies to my outie.
Aw.
That's cute, right? It's a nice
It
sentiment.
means we wouldn't interact, but okay.
Yeah. Well, fine. Jeez. Okay. Well, as we say,
I'm just saying, innies and outies don't mix. That's just all I'm saying.
Hey, we could go into overtime mode and just, things could think. This episode is already in overtime mode.
Yeah,
so let's just sign off.
I'm going to
guys.
run over to Justin's house and just, Justin! Yell on the door.
But as we say,
Praise Kier. Love ya.
Laters.
peace.